3 federal prosecutors are pushing back against the administration. And this is all tied to Mayor Eric Adams out of New York. Let's break that down. Hi, I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and this is The Breakdown. If you enjoy the content on this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and tell a friend. So, these 3 prosecutors were involved in the federal prosecution of New York Mayor Eric Adams having to do with fraud, bribery, and a number of other ugly misdeeds. Now, if you remember, New York Mayor Eric Adams was on bended knee before the president, running to Mar-a-Lago, kissing the ring because he was hoping either A, for the charges to be dismissed against him, or B, to get a pardon. So what ends up happening? The charges get dismissed against him. Now, in return, because you know this was a quid pro quo, this was not done out of the goodness of the president's heart, okay? In exchange, the mayor had pledged to help him with mass deportations. And of course, the reason why that's so critical is because New York is the epicenter of where many immigrants come once they get to this country. There you have connections in terms of family members. There's definitely a lot of job opportunities. And so it's a very common place for immigrants to land once they get here. And so the mayor, knowing this, as well as the president, the mayor basically served up these people on a platter, and the president's like, all right, I'll take that. So how does this impact the 3 federal prosecutors? They were opposed to the dropping of the charges. Why? Because they're like, listen, we had the evidence. We had a factual basis to move forward. We knew we could prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. This was not a witch hunt. We just literally followed the evidence and we brought it in front of the grand jury. Grand jury of New Yorkers looked at the evidence and said, charges need to be filed. And there you have it. So what's the issue? So, of course, these 3 prosecutors were placed on leave since they refused to co-sign the dismissal of the case. And then they got pressured. Like, listen, if you want your job back, say you're sorry. If you want to get your job back, express regret. And that we were wrong. This was wrongdoing. This was a witch hunt. 3 prosecutors are like, hell no. You're not going to put dirt on our name like that. And they're like, we did what we were supposed to do. They stated that they served under multiple presidential administrations and that they don't care about the politics, they care about the evidence. So just kind of diving into who these folks are. These 3 prosecutors are Celia Cohen, Andrew Rohrbach, and Derek Wickstrom. And they wrote a very strongly worded letter to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and basically accused him of pressuring them to make false statements to get their job back. They stated, "It is now clear that one of the preconditions you have placed on our returning to the office is that we must express regret and admit some wrongdoing by the office in connection with the refusal to move to dismiss this case. We will not confess to wrongdoing when there was none." They further continued to say, "We have served under presidents of both parties, advancing their priorities while pursuing justice without fear or favor." Hello, fear or favor. The role of a career prosecutor is not to set policy, but a prosecutor must abide by the oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the rules of professional ethics set by the bar and the courts. Now, the department has decided that obedience supersedes all else, requiring us to abdicate our legal and ethical obligations in favor of directions from Washington. That is wrong. Woof! Fire! Fire! And I'm here for it because, again, they're stating very clearly, listen, I'm a former prosecutor. I served for 16 years as a state prosecutor in Miami. And the one thing is for sure, you got to follow the evidence and not follow orders. Doesn't matter what pressure is coming from above. You're the one who is putting your name to this case and saying, yeah, this is a righteous prosecution. You're the one that has to stand in front of the jury and say, this person is guilty and this is why. If you can't do that, then that case has no business going forward. And if you have a factual basis to go forward and you're trying to move forward a case again with the evidence, everything is in order, you should not be pressured to drop the case because again, that's a travesty of justice. And not to mention when you have the president and others meddling, okay, then now you have a situation where you don't have that separation of powers. Because remember, you've got the legislative, which is Congress. You have the executive, which is the president, you have the executive, which is the president, and then you have the judicial branch, which includes the judges, prosecutors, all those folks who make the system go round. So kudos to them for standing up. But again, this still has a huge fallout because other DOJ officials have resigned. And of course, not to forget, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, that's the area that was supervising this case where the case was brought, she resigned as well. Because again, she's like, I'm not going to dismiss a case that was a righteous prosecution. I'm not going to do it. So this drama continues, and I will leave you with the final words of the letter. They said, "Serving in the Southern District of New York has been an honor. There is no greater privilege than to work for an institution whose mandate is to do the right thing the right way for the right reasons. We will not abandon this principle to keep our jobs. We resign." Boom. That's what I'm talking about. Now, again, I know this was not an easy decision for them because this is a job that they loved. If you're a career prosecutor, you're doing it for the love. You're not doing it for money. Let's be very clear. And to rise to the level of being an assistant U.S. attorney is huge. I mean, that is kind of the pinnacle of prosecution. So, and even more so in the Southern District of New York, which is one of the most prestigious circuits in the country. So for them to give up their personal comfort to now go on the job market, and a market that's crazy for attorneys because of all of these mass layoffs, it's just so much more competitive, they were willing to give all of that up to take a stand. And that's the kind of bravery in the face of opposition that we need in order to survive this time, to push back in this time, and to make sure there's a country after this time. I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and this was The Breakdown. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the content on this channel, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and tell a friend, because we are the resistance. Take care.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.